I didn't care, whether I lived or died, or if I went back to jail, or this is before the 3 strikes. But I learned to appreciate life after that experience. My name is Norman Williams. I was in prison because I stole a floor jack off of a tow truck, and they gave me 25 to life for it, off of the 3 strikes.
In 1994, Californians voted to enact a law known as 3 strikes that sentences repeat criminals to 25 years to life on their 3rd offense. It's unlikely, though, that the voters had petty thieves like Norman Williams in mind.
It was written out for people, for murderers, rapists, and people that was doing violent crimes.
In Northern California, a major break in the search for 12-year-old Polly Klaas, the Petaluma girl abducted from a slumber party 2 months ago.
3 strikes was ushered into law in the wake of the brutal murder of 12-year-old Polly Klaas. Klaas's murderer, Richard Allen Davis, was a repeat violent offender, just the sort of criminal many Californians wanted 3 strikes to take off the streets for good. But some critics say it hasn't worked that way at all.
The majority of people who have been sentenced to life under the 3 strikes law have committed nonviolent crimes as their 3rd strike. I think the intent of the law was well-meaning in trying to get repeat criminals off the street. But in fact, the way that the law has been applied, and I think that this is sort of an unintended consequence of the law, is it applies to folks who are, drug addicts, mentally ill, homeless people who are committing crimes, pretty much just survive.
Mike Romano runs a legal clinic at Stanford University.
Where do we need to say, in order to establish prejudice, that the new evidence would have put our client?
That re-examines stiff sentences imposed by California's 3 strikes law.
Although there are many states that have 3 strikes laws, California's is the most severe because you can receive a life sentence for a crime that otherwise qualifies as a misdemeanor.
That's exactly what happened to Norman Williams, who had 2 nonviolent crimes on his record.
A house burglary, and the other one was an attempt, but since I had the house burglary before, they gave me another house burglary.
So the way that these crimes work and the way that California's penal code is written is that certain minor crimes like petty theft and drug possession can be charged as either a misdemeanor or a felony. And if they're charged as a felony, and that's totally up to the prosecution's discretion, then somebody can receive a life sentence for that.
I didn't know that 3 strikes would give me 25 to life. It was a surprise to me.
He was never a hardened criminal, but he had a drug abuse problem, and he was stealing to support that.
Kathleen Fox is one of Romano's students. She helped broker a deal with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office to reconsider Williams' life sentence.
But that would be the kind of case that it could be argued was an abusive use of the law.
LA District Attorney Steve Cooley, a tough-on-crime Republican, was elected in 2000. That year, he instituted a policy of not seeking a life sentence unless the 3rd strike is violent or serious, or if the prior 2 crimes were so-called super strikes, crimes like murder, rape, or a violent armed robbery.
What our office needed at that time was a clear, understandable policy.
Cooley's office also began looking back at cases of nonviolent offenders who had been given life sentences for relatively minor crimes. Williams was on the list. Cooley's office reviewed his case and Romano and Fox's argument to lessen his sentence. Williams was released from Folsom State Prison in April of 2009 after serving 13 years of a 25 to life sentence. Romano and Fox were there to pick him up.
As soon as I got behind those walls, it was like, woohoo! Thank you, and I was excited, I was happy that I had another chance in life because it was dim.
Williams' case is one of a dozen that Romano and his students have been able to convince prosecutors and judges were excessively harsh. Now his office is flooded with requests from California's inmates serving life sentences.
We have a waiting list, of about 1,000 folks who are looking for help. So this is a letter that we just got today.
So we're talking there about, 3,000 people, more or less, who we believe are serving life sentences in California and have never committed, a crime of violence against anyone.
As the state releases prisoners as a way to ease its massive budget deficit, Cooley and other politicians are questioning the cost of putting petty criminals away for life.
In California, it's about $42,000 a year to keep a person in prison. So the decision to seek a 25 to life sentence is truly, when you do the math, it's a $1 million decision.
During Cooley's first year as DA of Los Angeles, 3 strikes life sentences dropped 39%. His office no longer seeks life sentences for meek offenders like Williams. But to some Californians, that sends the wrong message to criminals.
I would submit to you that he's led a life of crime. He knew that he had 2 strikes, and then he went out and committed another crime.
State Senator Tom Harmon is one of Cooley's main rivals in the June 8th Republican primary for the state's Attorney General position. 3 strikes has become a core issue in the campaign.
These are the types of people that we have to take off the streets and just say, I'm sorry, you were warned once, you were warned twice, you knew what the law was, and you violated it. And I don't have any particular problem with putting people like that behind bars for a lengthy period of time.
Cooley says if elected, he has no plans to change the law, but he has backed amendments that draw on his policy.
If there were to be any amendment to the 3 strikes law, it would be to eliminate the possibility of the law being incredibly abused, and it's very important that it not be abused, because if you abuse a law as powerful as a 3 strikes law, I guarantee you will lose that law.
Norman Williams now works cleaning the streets of Palo Alto. He says he's thankful for a second chance and for the attention brought to his case and others like it.
That law is harsh, and it should be changed. We should did time for what we did, but not that harsh of time.